So next up on my review, everyone's favorite paladins, the Lyonar, however the voice goes. Um, I'm going to mention right now that in the current format, as the game's being playtested, everyone has everything. I don't know what I really like about Duelist in general. What I really like about the beta Duelist, and it didn't in two draw Duelist, was that they identified that there's a lot of archetypes players might want to build. Like maybe you want to do a control deck, but you don't want to spend a ton of money. Well, there's good options at common rarities between neutral and the factions that will help fit into that control deck. You may not get the super, the one that you see in the tournament for the guy who spent $500 on the game or whatever, but you can still compete with him because you know what? This one works in that same control deck kind of okay. It actually probably doesn't, but you get the idea. So I'm going to be evaluating these cards to the best of my ability, but keep in mind that that's a thing where some of these cards maybe don't get played as much in the have everything version that we're playing right now, but they do a really good job of smoothing out how bad it feels. Like, I mean, if you've ever played Magic the Gathering, you have hundreds of cards, probably personally, if not thousands, that are just useless or barely played, or you like it, but it's not nearly that good. I really feel like all the cards in this set as they currently exist were designed with the intent that someone would play this in a deck. Maybe not in a fully competitive, have every card deck, but it's as an acceptable substitute where no, it doesn't do the one thing that the rare that everyone play does, but it does give you some other option that people aren't usually used to having to cover, and it's almost as good at the one thing, and it gives you this other thing instead, so now it's still worth playing, and maybe even a preference. So rambling aside, let's jump into it. Beam Shot. No idea when you play this. Maybe there's some spell combo deck where you want the free spell, but this is a fair, like even for 0, this is a really, really weak effect. Lionheart Blessing. Give a minion seal. Oh, and stun means they can't do anything next turn. So stunning an enemy minion, well, interesting. You can stun a unit. Okay. I didn't read that before. Unit means you can hit the general. So maybe stunning a general so they can't run or attack. I don't know if they can counterattack under this. I'd have to check that. I would assume they could. Maybe that's where this sees use, but even still, I have no idea. Lionheart Vestling. When this deals damage, draw a card. I seem to recall there was Zoo Lionar aggro decks where this saw some play. I don't know how to build them, but I believe they exist. Bracers. For various reasons, Lionar have another artifact that makes all artifacts a little bit better. This is pretty good as is. 0 mana, turn your guy into a 3-mana burn/removal machine is great. If you're doing some low curve, like I'm going to play most of my hand, most turns, and just rush people down thing, this is really, really good. And again, they stack, so this could, if you get all 3 of them in your hand, well, cool. Now I've got a 5-mana general to beat you with, or a 5-damage general to beat you with. Excellent. Okay. Sorry, I'm important. I don't recall this having this effect. I have been thinking about this effect. I feel like it's probably not that good. There's a lot of really good sweepers that get around Veil. There's a lot of good Dispel, which I believe gets rid of Veil. So there might be meta calls where this is a great card, where like the deck that's out there doesn't really run a bunch of good ways to answer this, and you can just get something out and murder them. But I would probably run this as 1 or 2 of tops if I had a deck that I could think of. I think this used to give everything airdrop, which sucked. No idea if this is good. There's maybe some cool combo. This is pretty decent. It was in my budget decks. I don't know if it goes in the have all money deck, but because of a card called Divine Bond, they can add their health to their attack permanently in this faction. So this gives a unit 4 health, and then you add 4 health plus whatever their original health was to their attack. It's very good. This is weird. It's maybe a 1 or a 2 of. You're probably not going to actually use it on enemies as much as you'll use it on allies. Like you drop something in a back corner so that they can't easily remove it. Then it survives the turn. So the next turn you can buff it, magnetize it in front of you, and smack them in the face. That's the main case I can think of this. I'm still pretty sure I wouldn't play this right now. I play this in Divine Bond decks because it's a great Divine Bond. With Divine Bond, this goes from a 1/4 to a 5/4 permanently. With 2 Divine Bonds, this goes from a 1/4 to a 5/4 to a 9/4. Like, that's gross out of pretty much nowhere. To be clear, Divine Bond does care about current health, so if this takes an attack and it goes down to 2 attack, then when you use Divine Bond, it'll only give, 2 health, it'll only give 2 extra damage, so it would be a 3/2. That's still not bad. Not great for Divine Bond, but not bad. So if you can get them healed up first, that's great. For some reason, my other card review said this wasn't good because I didn't remember that it's target unit, not minion. This is crazy. Healing is super, super good in Duelist. It's just hard to explain how powerful it is. And all I can say is you absolutely want this. Being able to suddenly heal 10 damage on your general is crazy good and going to just stop so many plans in their tracks. There's so many decks that are like, okay, I've got lethal next turn, and one of Lyonar's best abilities is more than anyone else. Out of nowhere, they can go back to nearly full health, and you're like, crud, now I actually have to deal with their board, and I hate their board. Probably a 3F. True Strike. Because of Tempest at 2 mana, I don't think you play this as much, but there are cases where you play this maybe as a 1 or 2 of. Azurite Line, 2/3 Celerity for 2, good card. Probably play it in a lot of decks. Celerity's nuts. Divine Bond this, you're threatening 10 damage. Obviously after it activates. Last Judgment, give a minion -3/+3. So this is conditional removal / buff. There's probably a deck this makes sense in that's kind of a low to the ground aggro threat thing where you can use this flexibly. I don't know what that deck is though, so good luck brewing. This is an interesting tech choice because it's not just you. It's whenever anything gets healed, your enemy or yourself. So especially versus certain control decks, Lyonar mirrors, Abyssian has a lot of heal going on. I could see this being really, really good as you just drop it in the back and they have to deal with it. You could threaten Divine Bond on it. It becomes a 5/4 and murders things. And it could become even more powerful as it heals. That said, it's sort of low tempo. It's not going to do a lot unless you have heals to trigger it, so hit or miss. I'm not sure. Premium removal, Swords to Plowshares at 2. This is like the removal of the game. There's some interesting, I think there were some weird combo situations where you could like make sure the Plowshare part doesn't happen, which is a bigger deal in this game than in Magic by far. Still, premium removal. If you need something dead for 2 mana, just accept no substitutes. Premium Dispel. Again, this is both of these are probably 2-ofs in most Lyonar decks, and they're 3-ofs in any sort of control deck. Dispel is super powerful in this game. 2/2 area Dispel is for 2 mana is egregiously powerful. No one else, I don't think any other faction has access to this kind of Dispel at this mana. They have to play a neutral that's a 4-drop for AoE Dispel. Crazy good. I am pretty sure this is just a trap. Airdrop is overrated. It often doesn't matter. I don't want to go into the full speech as to why airdrop is not good. There's a few rare cases, and giving something else airdrop, there's very few creatures where I think, oh, I want to airdrop this. You're probably thinking, oh, but I can get it across the field. But because you can summon next to your own creatures, there's lots of better ways to get your creature where you want it to be. Like you could play the Saberspine's Tiger, which is a 3-mana rush. So for 1 more mana, I get a 3-mana creature that I can drop, activate, move 2 spaces, and then summon next to it, and it'll actually do something that turn. Whereas this, for 1 less mana, is just a crappy stat line. Tempest, Premium Sweeper, 2 damage to all units, yourself and the enemy, and their general and your general. Be aware of that, but absolutely great in their aggro decks. Absolutely great to control swarm decks. It's very, very good. War Surge, give ally minions +1/+1. I know I had a budget zoo deck that ran this. I don't know if it goes in the have everything world, but you can run this. Again, probably 1 or 2 of. Anything conditional, like, oh, I need a board for this to work, 1 or 2 of. Unlimited at 4/3 for 2. It's great. Zeal means they're next to your general. Play it. Arclight Central, no. In certain decks, he's quite good. I was often very happy with him. Again, the nearby minion -2/2 can get a lot of damage out of nowhere or remove enemy units. And make him kind of 2-for-1 removal. Divine Bond. They're called Divine Bond decks. If you want to build a Divine Bond deck, you put Divine Bond in. It's good enough. I sometimes would even throw 1 in non-Divine Bond decks, just because people would think it's not a Divine Bond deck, let something live that they shouldn't, and then you smash them in the face. This is just such a good card. Like this card, I love how aggressively they push the envelope with cards like this. Like you've seen this effect in other games, but this is the best version of this effect I've ever seen. It's permanent. It adds their current health to their attack. It doesn't go away. I don't even think they can. Well, they can dispel it, of course, but like it's just so good. Silver Knight Guard. He's a 3/5 if he's next to you with Provoke. He's very good for a 3-drop with Divine Bond. He's an 8/5. Good in Divine Bond decks. I don't know if you play him in every deck if you're not playing Divine Bond, but obviously good value. And you know, this guy is part of. So like, notice when there's not a thing here, this means you'll always have this card for Lyonar. I think you have to like grind up in practice a bit to get their levels high enough, but it lets you level up in practice, which is nice. You don't right now, but if they revert to how the game used to be. Skywind Glaives. Your general has +1/+0. Allied minions nearby your general have +2/+0. I swear this didn't do this when it used to exist. I have a hard time believing this is worth it. It's basically a zeal thing. It seems very finicky, but because Arclight Regalia exists, maybe it's worth doing. Arclight Regalia is an easy 3-of in most Lyonar decks. Your general gets +2/+0. The first time your general takes damage with this equipped each turn, reduce that damage by 2, which means it's very hard to destroy this because it takes more hits than any other artifact. Because if you don't deal any damage, you don't remove the artifact. Play it. Like, if you don't know, you're like, I'm not sure where to start, throw these in your deck. Decimate. Destroy minions that are not nearby a general. I don't think this is good. Again, for a 4-mana sweeper, maybe with Magnetize and some weird stuff, there's some situations, but I don't recall it ever really seeing a ton of play. If like Slither, Elder, and some other like take over the board, spam the heck out of the board cards, become control finishers, I could see this being a good way to get control, but especially when there's Holy Immolation, which is an absolutely bonkers card. Heal an allied minion for 4. Great. Deal 4 damage to enemies near it. That includes enemy generals. So you do something like drop your Silverguard Knight, attack them for 3, then heal for 4, and hit them for an additional 4. So it's 7 damage, healed this guy up to full, and sweeped everything around him. Super powerful card. Might be I mean, if you're running any remotely creature-based strat, which again, there's kind of like artifact strats and whatnot, you probably want to be running at least 2 of these, if not 3. Honestly, Airdrop Celerity 4/4, I don't think these were his original stats. I've never been impressed when I see him. I'm like, okay, you got a 4/4 for 4 that did nothing this turn, and next I can probably remove it before you do something. Obviously, if it lives, this is ridiculous. It's threatening at least 8 to 16 damage with Divine Bond, or 8 to 12 damage with Holy Immolation. So maybe there is sort of a like Lyonar threat deck. Again, maybe this is where Magnetize comes in. You airdrop this guy in a corner way far away, say deal with him, or else I'm going to bring him over here and beat you to death. I don't know. I have had disappointing results with this card, but I think it does work. I don't know how to make it work. I absolutely had this in one of my Divine Bond decks as a curve topper because it becomes a 9/6 that keeps healing itself, so it's very easy to make sure you get the full Divine Bond value. I wouldn't run a ton, and I'm not sure it goes in money decks, but this card is not bad at all. One thing to keep in mind, though, as I go through all this, anything with 3 or less attack dies to Plasma Storm, one of the premier sweepers in Magmar. You'll notice as I'm looking through these units, that's a problem. It's like your entire field. So playing against Magmar, you have to be very conscious of, will this thing die immediately because of that? And maybe that's why that one artifact that gives everything +2 is good. I don't know. Circle of Life, premium removal. 5 damage to something and heal for 5. Again, healing is good. Any sort of control deck, 2 of. Even non-control decks, maybe a 2 of. Ironcliff Guardian. Divine Bond decks. This is where airdrop matters because of the provoke. No matter where they are on the field, you drop this guy next to him. They can't run away. They must deal with him. And if they don't deal with him, he's going to hit you for 13. Maybe they hit him once and you take 3 that turn and then, 8, 9, 10, 11 the next turn. Once again, 13. Or no, 11. No, 14. It's worse. God, I can't math today. Sorry. Point is, great card. I'm not sure you don't, if you play him as much outside of Divine Bond decks, because it's just this big, big body that doesn't do a bunch, but eh. Second Son, I was never impressed with. The 0 attack, especially with like Magmar having like removal based on low attack. Again, Magmar matchup is tough for Lyonar. I don't know. I've never been super impressed with him. He feels like a do nothing in a lot of situations, and I feel like it's too easy. Like you lure this guy away in Abyssian, and then now he has no damage, and you just hit him, and who cares? Allies can move an additional space. I don't think this is good. I don't know when you would play this, but maybe there's a reason. I usually don't have problems with distance. Grandmaster 0. This was used in Control. You can drop this right at the end when they think they have lethal and throw it in a corner, and then crud, now even if they kill you, you just become him and they have to deal with him. So this is actually a very good control finisher. So those are all the in-faction things. There are a lot of neutrals that are really, really good in Lyonar because of Divine Bond. We're going to talk about that. So 1-drops, I don't know. But like, look, this is a 1-drop, 1/3. It's suddenly a 4/3 with Divine Bond, and it has a useful tech effect. Like, I wouldn't play this for the record. This guy, Divine Bond. Once again, giving all your allies more toughness is a big, big deal when your allies are good at healing, and you can turn that into damage. This guy is threatening a 5/4. on turn 3. You play him turn 2, turn 3, drop Divine Bond on him, go to town. Then he dies, buffs everything else. Your next Divine Bond's even worse. Always good tech card. Probably wouldn't play these. Always good tech card because it removes junk like Divine Bond. Always good aggro card. And I can't think of a Lyonar deck where I wouldn't automatically put 3 of these. Like when you go to build a Lyonar deck, put 3 of these in. I know I've said that with like a lot of cards, and there is a little bit of tweaking as you start to like figure out what your preferences are and what combos you like and what things you're trying to deal with. But like start out, put 3 of these in your Lyonar deck. Done. Golems. Golems are best in Lyonar if you're going to try and play them. I don't think golems as a faction are a thing, but you'll see that some of the later golems are really scary in Lyonar. Primus Fist, maybe. If you're doing a zoo deck, absolutely. Rock Pulverizer, pretty great in Lyonar. This is a card that you always have. This is a starter card. I ran this in my budget Lyonar. Again, 2-drop, it provokes, which helps, control my opponent, and then becomes a 5/4. Absolutely. Rust Crawler, pretty good in Lyonar. Actually, I think it's even better now. It used to be a 2/2, but now it's 4/1, which Lyonar loves. And they do have trouble removing enemy artifacts. They don't have any great artifact destruction, so this is a very good card for them. This golem is actually one of the golems that you don't like. Wings of Mechazor is, again, an interesting thing in the Divine Bond deck. I'm going to talk about Divine Bond a lot, but like as you can see, anything with a big butt loves Divine Bond. Because again, it stacks too. Like, I can drop this, and if I've got 2 Divine Bonds in my hand and they let it live, oh, okay, this is going to deal at least 9 damage to you. Do I want to talk about any of these too much? Not really. I don't think this is really good, but again, golems are a little bit better. Giving lots of things provoke doesn't stack as well as people think. If you're going to try a Lady Lock deck, I guess try it maybe in like a Lyonar Zoo thing. I don't think she's very good. Again, these are probably best in Lyonar if you want to mess with them. This guy's probably gross in Lyonar. I don't think he includes himself, obviously, but like you can make him a 5/5 with Divine Bond, and then there's some other really high attack creatures you could be playing, so he might actually be really good there. Conditional good starter deck removal. This can be crazy good. Again, remember, this is a great way to do burn from hand, where like, okay, you play this, you drop the +4 toughness spell on it, so now it's a 3/6, then you Divine Bond it, now it's a 9/6, and that was for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana and 3 cards. That's very doable as a late game finisher, and if you draw any one of those cards in the earlier mid game, you're still happy with them. I wonder if this makes sense in Lyonar. I swear I never saw this played, but I swear this wasn't its effect. If it was its effect, it's not very good. Otherwise, maybe. I don't think this makes much sense in Lyonar. You already want to dispel this thing. Lyonar is one of the few that can deal with it. Maybe there's heal synergies where this works. Like I know I go crazy about heal and all this. Heal your general for the amount dealt. That's what makes this so risky, because it's kind of a do nothing until it actually gets to deal damage. So if you're doing heal synergy stuff with like that light bender thing, I think this is where that goes. Again, bigger butt makes this better than it normally would be. All of these. People will have to experiment and try things. I'm not a big fan of anything expensive in range, though. Just throwing it out there. All of these, or these guys get better. Or this one anyways. This is actually pretty good in Lyonar. I seem to recall this being played because you want to just like tutor up your Arclight Regalia out of nowhere and beat people to death with it. Once again, anything with a bigger back end is good. I don't think, for the record, that trying to do Tombstone shenanigans is worth it. You can run your airdrop 5 creature rather than try to make this a 10/10. It's not worth it. Emerald Rejuvenator, absolutely bonkers in Lyonar. Again, very, very good. Works with Divine Bond. They like healing. They can trigger multiple heals. They'll keep them alive. Great card. They probably almost never run this because they have better ways to sweep. Again, Provoke is overrated. Oh, Hailstone Golem. I ran this in my budget. It's a 4 mana 4/6 that's kind of hard to remove. A lot of the premium sweepers don't deal with this. So you have to like spend targeted removal on it. And if they don't, that's 10 damage coming at them next turn. So again, if I have Divine Bond, this is why golems can be really good. And so cheating him out on turn 3 because of that other golem lord, maybe that's good enough. Or maybe it's like a small package you fit into the deck. Not sure if you play it in the have everything deck, but again, this is a starter card. You will always have this. This guy has all sorts of crazy gimmicks. If you want to look for him, go for it. AoE Dispel you don't need. You probably never play this. I don't think that matters. Again, I played him in my budget deck. This was totally happy to have a 4 mana, possible 5/7 Divine Bonder. Again, actually, this is very good in Divine Bond decks because it gives you escape / approach, which is something that Lyonar lacks. They lack mobility, so this can be very, 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 very powerful. I don't think it goes in have everything decks, but it has some uses. Maybe this finally makes sense. Again, I didn't play enough with these to test them, but the cool thing about Lyonar is Divine Bond like makes you reassess so many creatures. Another one that I used as a common finisher in my Lyonar deck, being able to threaten 11 damage next turn if you don't deal with this thing, and it's hard to deal with, is just brutal. Dancing Blades, absolutely great. Threatens 10 damage, does 3 damage when it comes down. Wonderful. And I know I'm putting all this like in Divine Bond terms because Divine Bond is such a great card. Not every Lyonar deck plays Divine Bond, but that's how you assess a lot of these creatures because I've kind of given good assessments of the creatures in other decks anyways. I'll give a neutral video at the end here, but I just have to say this is great in Lyonar. Divine Bond, Divine Bond, Divine Bond. I'm going to try and shut up about it. Obviously, any control thing, if you want to do a control deck, they have to dip into neutral control creatures a bit more because their top-end control doesn't do a whole lot. I don't think this is that good. I don't think this is actually good in a more controlling deck if you're not running Divine Bond and just trying to use big spells and then finish with big creatures. You will run this guy because it helps you live longer. But you're going to be dipping into the neutral creatures a lot more because your in-faction stuff is for the late curve. So now you're like, okay, now I run Archon Spellbinder. I don't think you run Eclipse, but maybe this is the one thing that does. Maybe this is when you run this guy. Again, they're probably fine for budget decks. Again, Golem, potentially good for them. War Talon, potentially good for them. And I know this is where she sees play. She's great. He can be a lot better because they could, have lower cost creatures to work with. So you're going to be the point being like Redstone. I remember it was Sinja, Pandora. I think those were the two main ones I saw as like the neutral controllers. Maybe Zuriel had use in this. I know what you're thinking. I've rambled about Divine Bond so much, so being able to threaten 16 damage on a 7-drop next turn, that's got to be good, right? And the answer is probably not. Again, it's do nothing if you don't have Divine Bond. When I could be running these, it is a common, so you're more likely to have it. So in a budget deck, maybe it makes sense. You'll notice I have a Divine Bond deck over here. Again, I have not played this one in competitive. I've only been playing Songhai in competitive right now while I get back to things, so I kind of did a mix of what I used to do. I only have 2 elixirs. I've got 3 of these, 3 of these, 3 of these, 3 of these. 1 Sunbloom, that should probably go up to 2 now that I've been playing more. 3 Tempests, I'd probably drop that to 2 with how things have been going. Windblade Adept, just, strong. Silverguard Knight, just strong. Divine Bond, obviously good. Arclight Regalia, just straight good. Emerald Rejuvenator, make sure I survive. Holy Emanation, just straight good. And then Suntide Maiden and Ironcliff Guardian to top the curve. Nice, straight, simple stuff. Most people won't expect the Maiden, so she can be a real big surprise when people aren't, looking for that. I probably need some other buffs because, again, dealing with the Magmar matchup can be a nightmare if you don't have other ways of buffing your units. So that might be where the where is it? Either this guy or War Surge comes in just to get some of your 3-attack creatures out of God, they're only 3-attack with Zeal, out of Plasma Storm range, so Lyonar doesn't just, or Magmar doesn't just murder you. Yeah, that's about it. I really do love Lyonar. I don't normally love the tanky, healy, paladin-y things, and I had a blast playing with them. I was never great with them, but they have so much more going on than these decks usually do, or these archetypes usually do. So I hope you enjoy them and have fun.